Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cajuns Insider. My name is Abdul Abu Sada. Alongside with me is Banyan Turner. Good afternoon, Banyan. How are you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing good. Your mic's going to be swinging all day today, just like these Cajuns here, because they can't stay still and do the job. It's not a good week to be talking Cajuns, but here we are having to do so because one of us goes to UL, the other one lives here in Lafayette, mile away from UL. So that's that. Last Saturday, this was a tough one. This is going to be a tough one to talk about, but here we are having to talk about it. Cajuns this past weekend made a trip up to Ypsilanti, Michigan to face the Eagles of Eastern Michigan. And the Cajuns did not pull it off. They lost 34-31 in a game that the Cajuns were favored by 2.5 points in. And we're going to kind of break it down, what we saw, and maybe point out some of the positives that were there. And we'll talk about Marshall after that. Cajuns play Marshall this Saturday. So let's get right into it. Banyan, I know you probably didn't watch the entire game, but what are your initial thoughts on how this game turned out?
I think we should have won that game. I just think we were the better team. It just didn't prove it at all. We ended up tying it up, or it was tying it up. We were up a little bit at the end. And Eastern Michigan, we squibbed it. Horrible squib kick. Definitely should have squibbed it, but it should have been a better executed one. And we just couldn't pull through. But I think Daniel Bill looked a little bit better, even though he had 2 picks. But he was finally throwing the ball, finally got some completions. That's something he hasn't had all season. So I just think that we're moving a little bit better, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But right now, we're just making little progress.
And it's the offense definitely made some progress. Shelton Sampson finally had a good game. He had 5 targets. He caught 3 of those targets. This is the first time, by the way, that this season, and I guess you could say his entire collegiate career. I don't know. I don't know how his stats were at LSU, but I'm pretty sure they're not much. He didn't play much. For the first time this season, he had over a 50% catch rate. He caught 3 of his 5 passes and 87 yards to show for it. Prior to this game, he had 22 targets. If I'm not mistaken, he had 22 targets. He only caught 5 of them. It was that bad for Shelton Sampson. And so, it was, of course, exciting to finally see Shelton do something this past weekend. And unfortunately, the team just didn't show for it with a win. But look, starting off on the offensive side, it was just horrible play calling, just awful play calling. Not only that, but the decision-making at some points in the game was just, horrible. It was just bad. And I know a lot of people, agree with me on this. Whatever the coaching staff had planned for this game was just awful. It did not work out well. We look at the quarterback situation. Of course, Daniel Beal was your starter, replacing Walker Howard, who got injured week 1. Look, Daniel Beal took advantage of this Eastern Michigan defense. They were, ranked 98th in passing yards allowed prior to this game. And Daniel Beal threw for 33 times, completed 20 of those passes. So he had a 61% completion rate, 227 yards, but he had no touchdowns to show for it and 2 interceptions, which came on back-to-back drives at a point in the game where the Cajuns were down. They needed momentum. They had some momentum prior to the interceptions happening, but couldn't capitalize on the momentum that they had. And so the interception was thrown. EMU goes and scores. Cajuns get the ball back, and Daniel Beal throws a pick, I believe, on the first play of that next drive. It was bad. So Daniel Beal did not have a good second half. He had a great first half, in my opinion. I thought the first half was great for him. 227 yards passing. This is not something that the Cajuns has seen all season. I mean, Daniel Beal had what, 90 something, around 90 yards passing.
Yeah, now we average 90 yards, which is bottom.
We were
like
averaging prior to this game.
It was like 60 something.
It was 60. It was, yeah, in the 60s, 50, 60. It was somewhere there. That's what we were averaging. I believe it was 59.
I'll do some math real quick.
Yeah. Okay. So we finally got the passing game going. Bad news is on the final play of the game, and we'll talk about how the game ended in just a second, but on the final play of the game, your go-to wide receiver, Robert Williams, gets injured. And I was not aware of it until I'd seen it on social media afterwards because turns out an ambulance had to come out and pick him up from the field. So you lose him. Yeah, what'd you find?
Yeah, we're averaging like 45.
Yeah, we were somewhere down there.
With Daniel Beal, at least.
Yeah.
It was 45. So with Walker, week 1, it was probably around 50 something.
Lunch Winfield, this game only had 2 attempts, completed one of them, I believe, for 5 yards. I'm going to say this. I personally, just from what I've seen from Lunch, I do not believe that Lunch is a capable quarterback. And this is his stats so far this season: 25% completion rate for only 4 yards. Last week against EMU, he had 2 attempts, 1 completion for 5 yards. 5 yards was the only completion. The other one was a ball that was overthrown, and it was bad. He was rolling out, overthrew the receiver on a play that he really should have hit the receiver. So, look, he's a great running quarterback. And we haven't really seen much from Lunch. I don't want to take credit from him. He's only a sophomore, but based off of what I've seen so far out of him. By the way, the Cajuns were supposed to be putting Lunch in every 3rd drive of this game. But because the game didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, that didn't really happen. So Lunch really didn't get the opportunities that he was supposed to get. But I just don't think I've seen enough from him to say that he is a capable quarterback at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't seen him a lot, but we also haven't seen him a lot. So,
Right.
I mean, against Missouri, we understand he was just thrown into the fire with that. And then he played, he had 2 passes, you said. I think we need to see more of him. I think we will see more of him later in the year if Daniel Beal keeps going the way that he's going. But I just think it's going to take time for him, and which is fine because, he's a sophomore too. Then Beal's a sophomore as well?
Beal is a redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman, yeah. He played last year in the game. Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
then, so I think we're going to see more of him. I think we will see more of him later in the year, and then we can talk about him more. But right now, just not seeing it, but time will come. So we'll see how it goes with the rest of the season. As
far as the running game, and our offense was pretty balanced this week. I thought we had a good balance of passing and running. We ran the ball for 214 rushing yards. Zylan Perry had 15 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he had a great game. Bill Davis also had a good game as well. 11 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. So these 2 running backs, plus I don't know if Steven Blanco played or not, but 214 yards rushing, 227 yards passing, 232 yards passing because of what's his name?
Yeah, Blanco had 3 carries, 15 yards with the longest 7.
And he's for a freshman, he's played really good this season. I thought he's done a lot, and he will continue to do a lot. I think someone will have to take this load off of Zylan Perry and Bill Davis when it needs, to be taken off of them. So
yeah, after that offensive performance, it just comes down to the defense. Defense has got to make stops.
Right, and that's what I was just going to get to next. The defense, defense played really bad this past Saturday. It was bad. There were lots of broken tackles. And when I say a lot, there were a lot. I mean, Eastern Michigan, look, they were 0-3 before this game. Coming in, they had played a Texas State team, which they say was really good, and they lost to them pretty soundly. They played a Long Island team, an FCS opponent, who that game was, on paper was not close. The score was close. On paper was not close. They played a really bad game, and they couldn't even beat them. And then they go to Kentucky, And they played a pretty good game at Kentucky. They just couldn't, hold on long enough, and Kentucky eventually ran away with the win. So those are 3 games that Eastern Michigan had lost. And look, Eastern Michigan, this season has had really good first halves. They've played really good first half games. They've struggled in the second half. So when you go back and see these last 3 games prior to the Cajuns game that the Eastern Michigan Eagles have played, you will realize that the Eagles have played really good in the first half of their games. They struggle in the second half. And so coming into this game, what they were trying to do was take advantage of a Cajuns defense who are coming off of a horrible, horrible defensive showing against Missouri, and really wanted to capitalize not only in the first half, but also in the second half.
Yeah, the defense did do well in the third quarter. They allowed 0 points to Eastern Michigan. So Eastern Michigan obviously having their bad second half like they've always had. And they come in the fourth quarter and they scored 13 points and end up winning the game on the last drive. So it's just the defense just got to stay for all 4 quarters. They didn't do very well in the first half, and then they ended up coming out in the second half doing well, and then just blew it in the fourth quarter.
The Cajuns allowed Dante McMillan, which was Eastern Michigan's leading running back, their best running back, to run for 126 yards. Which, by the way, and I will say this now, the Cajuns have now allowed the season-leading rushers of Rice, Missouri, and now Eastern Michigan to have their best games against us. Okay? Rice, Quentin Jackson, had 119 yards rushing against us. So far this season, that has been his best game. Mizzou, Ahmad Hardy, he had 250 yards against us. That has been so far his best game of the season. Dante McMillan of Eastern Michigan ran for 126 yards against us. That was his best game of the season. The Cajuns are now allowing 216 yards per game on the ground. That's awful. You can't win games if your defense is allowing 216 rushing yards per game. By the way, where this ranks right now in the country, UL is 127th. Eastern Michigan is 134. They allow 272 yards on the ground per game. Now, the Cajuns, like I said, we had 214 yards rushing against the worst rushing defense in the country. So, we did a good job on the run. In the running attack, I think we could have done better, but, we still did pretty good. But, this Cajuns defense, coming into the season, we were talking about them being this, really good rushing attack, rushing defense that we have, really good linebackers who were going to stop the run and, sack the quarterback. And I know it's a different topic, but sack the quarterback, which we really haven't done much this season. But you can't be allowing 216 yards per game on the ground. You can't do that. This is what's going to cost you games, and this is the reason why UL right now is 1-3. The only positive I thought that came on the defensive side of the ball for the Cajuns, other than allowing 0 or 3 points in the third quarter? Zero points in the third quarter, was Cortland Flowers and his pick six that he had in the game. Really great pick six. I don't know where Noah Kim was throwing it to, but Cortland, Court had that pick and returned it. And I'll be honest with you, we were discussing this via text. I mean, this Cajuns offense would have been down by even more without this pick six. I think at the time of this pick six, the Cajuns would have been down 2 scores. And this brought them up to a 1-score deficit for them. So this was a really big momentum changer for them, and they still couldn't capitalize on it. The Cajuns also had 10 penalties for 85 yards. You can't win games when you have this many penalties for this many yards. I mean, this right there is a score. Like, you can drive down the field, 85 yards, that's a score right there. If not a touchdown, it's a field goal. That would have taken you to overtime or probably win the game. That's that. My biggest frustration, and I know everybody's frustration, was what the heck were the Cajuns thinking after they tied the game, kicked the game-tying field goal with 40 seconds left in the game. What were they thinking on squib kicking the ball to the 40-yard line for Eastern Michigan to go and return it from there? That was the biggest question mark, I think, that came out of this game was what the hell were they thinking? Why are we squibbing it to the 40-yard line or even the 30-yard line with 40 seconds left in the game and you were tied?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, we do agree they should have squibbed it. It's just the type of squib that they did not fit with what should have happened. It should have just been a line drive to the 20, maybe the 10, just in a straight shot, just so our team can just run and just get there. But it's just bad execution.
And that's what it exactly was supposed to be. Now, from what I was told, the Cajuns had a new kickoff kicker, kickoff specialist who was kicking the ball in the second half. But how do you mess this up? Like, where was and Coach Des, by the way, he was asked about this. And his response was there was some miscommunication. And ultimately, in the end, he ended up saying we shouldn't have went for the squib. I'm like, I understand there are different types of squibs. And the type of squib that they did was completely horrible and wrong. And I don't know how a kicker, if it was a miscommunication by the coaches, did a red light not pop up in the kicker's mind to say, this is not the right squib kick for this game situation? You don't kick a 20-yard squib kick, 30-yard squib kick to the 40, to the 35, 40-yard line with 40 seconds left in the game. What should have been done, and, Coach Des did say this is what was supposed to happen. Was that this was supposed to be a line drive kick towards the end zone where it would stay in bounds and have one of the returners catch the ball and return it, hopefully stop them inside of the 25 and go from there. That's what should have happened. And I don't understand where the kicker I don't understand where the miscommunication was. I don't know how you miscommunicate something that is so obvious in the last 40 seconds of the game. It was just...
Yeah, going back to Coach Dez's comments on it, the one thing I don't like about Dez is that he says what people want to hear. He never backs up his choices to do something. And I just think that's being a head coach. You got to tell him, like, look, it was supposed to happen. Just bad communication, and that's our bad. Should not have happened at all. He just needs to take accountability for it.
As I mentioned earlier, Robert Williams did get injured on the final play of the game. He was transported out by ambulance. Coach Des did say that there was numbness and he had a very bad headache. And he was pretty much our go-to wide receiver. And after halftime, my one takeaway on offense was Daniel Beal should either throw it to the tight ends or to Robert Williams, because those were the only two successes that we had passing the ball to. Robert Williams, I forgot what his stats were for this game, but he was your leading receiver. Well, Sampson was your leading receiver up, and
Yeah, he had 7 catches for 71 yards.
Yeah, and Shelton Sampson was your leading receiver only because of the big game that he had and towards the end of the game. Which, by the way, we did. In my opinion, I thought we got bailed out by the refs. It was 4th and goal, or 4th and long. Cajuns go for it. They don't get it. And then a roughing a passer penalty was thrown on a play where I don't think roughing the passer was supposed to be called. It was a very weak roughing the passer call, but they called it. And I thought we got bailed out twice at the end of the game. So, and it only pisses me off even more because this is the game you should have won. Coming into this game, we were talking about this game being your momentum changer because you lose to a Rice team that, you probably should have beaten. You beat McNeese, who, that's a team that, although we knew it would be a good game and a close game, that game, the Cajuns, given what we were told in the offseason, they should have ran away with this win better than they did. And then, of course, what happened at Missouri was just the mess that everyone wants to forget about. And So going to Eastern Michigan before you open up conference play, you wanted to go to Eastern Michigan and get your momentum, at least have some momentum going into conference play, have some confidence. And, the Cajuns offense looked much better in this game, but the defense just looked awful, awful. I mean, it did not seem like they tried. It did not seem like they cared. It almost seemed like it was just a continuation of what we saw at Missouri. And on top of that, Eastern Michigan has not scored more than 27 points this season up until we had allowed 34 points for them. So you lose your go-to running wide receiver. And then the other day, we got news that Shelton Sampson will now be out for 4 to 6 weeks because of a torn ligament in his finger that he was playing with, as well as a hamstring issue that he had suffered halfway through the game. So you'll lose Robert Williams for some time now. He will not be playing Saturday. You'll lose Shelton Sampson for at least a month now. He's obviously not going to be playing either Saturday. So those are your top 2 wide receivers that you will not have for the time being. So the question is, what now? Like, where are we going right now? The Cajuns yesterday released the injury report, and I'm trying to find it. Injury report has been released, and if I count correctly, there are 15 players on this list. That is almost a fifth of your team right there on this list, if not a fifth. 4 of your offensive linemen are out for this game. Isaiah Alexander, Xavier Brown, George Jackson, which, by the way, George Jackson was your starting right tackle, and Jamarian Gooch, who was your left tackle backup. He was not the starter, the backup, but he had a lot of snaps. He's been getting a lot of snaps. And then on top of that, Mackie Milo is now probable. He's supposed to play Saturday, or will try to play Saturday, but he was on the injury list. Of course, your 2 wide receivers are out. Evan Stroman is doubtful. He's a wide receiver. We haven't really seen him this season. Marion Eliam, who was injured at Missouri, and now that I remember this is the second week in a row now that a player had to be transported out by ambulance for UL. First time was Marion Eliam at Missouri, and this time it was Rob Williams, your wide receiver, after the final play of the game. So you are also out 2 linebackers, Alexander Spencer and Torrey Brown. They're not necessarily your starters, but, playmakers, available playmakers. Your long snapper is out. Carter's going to be out this week, so Hunter Sims is going to be taking over. I mean, there are 15 names on this list. It's bad. At some point, we got to question, was our transfer portal additions enough? I mean, you lose Walker Howard for the season. You're losing Shelton Sampson for now pretty much the majority of the season. Those are your 2 biggest transfer portal additions. Yeah, that's how it's going for us. Cajuns are going to be at home this Saturday. They are going to be playing the Marshall Thundering Herd in what was supposed to be a rematch of the Sun Belt Conference Championship game that was played here at Cajun Field just 9 months ago. And look, I said it the other day on our Cajun Sports Talk podcast. It's a tale of 2 extremes. Because just 9 months ago, these 2 teams were the best 2 teams in the Sun Belt. And now coming into this game, Cajuns are arguably the worst team in the Sun Belt. And I don't want to hear anybody bring up ULM, because ULM right now looks good. They look like they're in a good position. Okay? Arguably the worst team in the Sun Belt right now, going up against a Marshall team that lost nearly 70 or around 70 players from their roster last season. They do not have their head coach anymore. Okay. They do not have any quarterback who played for them last season, has taken snaps for them last season. They do not have any running backs who have taken a snap for him in 2024. They have 2 receivers that played last season that stayed. Majority of your offensive line left. 1 returning defensive lineman, 2 returning DBs. And on top of that, you'll lose your and I could go on, by the way, but we're it's different. On top of that, you'll lose your head coach to Southern Miss, who also took 21 of those of your players. So 50 players transferred out of Marshall. 50. That is half the team right there. And they're now 2-2. They lose to Georgia. Then they play Missouri State, which they lose to. They had a bad game against them. And then they played Eastern Kentucky, I believe, and then Middle Tennessee. 2 teams that they beat pretty good. So they're 2-2 right now. They lose all these players. Meanwhile, in the offseason, the Cajuns were supposed to have arguably the best team in the Sun Belt. Yet right now, as we sit here and talk right now, Marshall is the better team coming into this game. They are in a better position than the Cajuns are coming into this game. It's a tale of 2 extremes because these were the top 2 teams in the conference last season, and now they're like one of the worst. But for the Cajuns especially, because coming into this season, they were supposed to be arguably the best team in the conference along with JMU, and now they're arguably the worst. Yeah, that's the story, You have injuries, poor coaching decisions that are being made. It's awful, Now, our rushing defense ranks in the bottom 10 of in the country, 127. Your passing defense ranks in the top 25. So you have a good passing defense. But think about it. At what cost? You played Rice, who only passed the ball for 50 yards against us because they do. To be fair, I could go look at the stats right now and see how many passing yards that Rice has. And when you look at the stats right now, Rice is dead last in passing yards. They have a total of 308 passing yards this season.
Yeah, they average 65.
They average 65. The Cajuns, for reference, the Cajuns are second to last on this list. You'd think we're a balanced offense, but no, the Cajuns are just right above Rice on this list. We are averaging 104 per game.
See, we might have been dead last week before Rice.
I believe we were.
Yeah, because
I believe we were.
Rice threw for almost 100 yards last week. So yeah, they definitely would have been ahead of us.
So you played Rice, who doesn't pass the ball really well. Okay. You play McNeese, who passed the ball pretty well. They have a good quarterback for the level that they're in. And you play pretty well against them. Not bad. But I will say he was throwing really good passes against UL. He threw way better passes than Daniel Beal did. And I understand it was Daniel Beal's first starting game this season, first game that he's ever started. But Jake Strong for McNeese looks really good against this defense. And it was concerning. And then we go to Missouri, who didn't pass the ball much because they had a running back who ran for 250 yards and a running offense that ran for 427 yards. There was no need to pass the ball. Yet, Prebula still threw for 179 yards. So, yes, you are a top 25 passing defense in this country, but you haven't played anyone who has had a good passing attack other than Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan really struggles on the ground, despite Dante McMillan running for 126 yards against us and us allowing, I don't know how many yards we allowed, like 200 yards against them, something like that. They throw the ball out of desperation. A really bad team. And they're a really bad team. I'm emphasizing that. A really bad team. Eastern Michigan's a really bad team, and yet we allow their quarterback to throw for 226 yards, more than Daniel Beal did. You're still ranked top 25 in the country in passing yards allowed. But at what cost? You have not played a team who truly throws the ball well, other than Eastern Michigan. And you let them have more passing yards than you did. So coming into this game against Marshall, which, by the way, the Cajuns did open as 2.5-point favorites. Marshall right now, as we speak, is 1.5-point favorites in this game. It completely shifted. Because yesterday we were looking at this and the Cajuns were 2.5-point favorites. The Cajuns are now 1.5-point underdogs. And according to Punt and Rally, we were just looking at this. The Cajuns are not favored to win any more games except the last two games at Arkansas State and versus ULM. We are now, as of now, 2.5-point favorites against Arkansas State and 5-point favorites against ULM. Which is shocking because these two teams, especially ULM right now, are looking like they're on a good track. Cajuns right now are 20.5-point underdogs against James Madison. 12.5-point underdogs against Texas State, which, by the way, let me reiterate this, and I know I'm kind of looking ahead right now when I really shouldn't be, but we have never lost Texas State before. This probably might be the year, and this is the year that they're leaving the Sun Belt. Talking about Marshall, and I spoke to Russ Livingood of the Thundercast the other day as we previewed this matchup on our Cajun Sports Talk podcast. Look, Marshall has a quarterback in Carlos Del Rio Wilson, who last week won Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Week. He also had some national accolades that he earned. They don't pass the ball much. He's only thrown for 400 yards this season.
He's only played 2 games. Huh?
He's only played 6 quarters.
Yeah, 6 quarters, right.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I mean, 6 quarters, you're throwing for 400 yards. So you're throwing for 300 yards in a game on average. They've thrown for 600 total. So it seems like their other 2 quarterbacks who have gotten snaps haven't been really good for him. But Marshall has a really good, and from what I heard from Russ, Marshall has a really good running attack. They have rushed for 720 yards this season. 720 yards. Yeah,
they average 180 and they're ranked 56th.
Yes.
58th.
Yes. UL, by the way, has rushed for 800 yards this season, 797. Marshall has rushed for 720. So you got 2 really good running games here. But here's what's the problem. Is you have 2 problems. And they're big problems for the Cajuns. On the defensive side for the Cajuns, you have a Marshall offense who's running for an average of almost 200 yards a game. How much is it?
180. And we allow 215.
We allow 215, 216, which is bottom 10 in the country. And they have a top 35. Yep. And I'm going to say this. Well, no, I'm looking at something else. What is their rushing attack ranked?
Yeah, 35th. They allow 102 rushing yards per game.
No. I'm talking about their rushing game.
Oh, their rushing game, 180, and they're 58th.
58th. You got a top 60 running game. They don't have 1 or 2 running backs who your monster, heads like UL has with Bill Davis, Zylan Perry. No, they don't have that. They have 5 or 6 running backs that are going to get carries on a game-to-game basis. 6, 8, 10, 12. They have 13 players who have rushed for Marshall this season. And of those 13 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are running backs. 4 of those running backs have at least 50 yards this season. Russ told us It's not just going to be 1 or 2 running backs. We're going to see 4 or 5 different running backs run the ball in this game against us. The problem, we are allowing 216 yards per game on the ground. That's bottom 10 in the country. On the Cajun side of the of things, on offense, Cajuns have a really good running game. But the problem is Marshall is ranked 35th in the country in rushing yards allowed. And that might not seem really good. And it's only because they've played against Georgia, who ran for over 200 yards against them. But other than that game against Georgia, Marshall has only allowed 57 yards per game on the ground. 57 yards per game. So forget the Georgia game. Against Missouri State, against Eastern Kentucky, and against Middle Tennessee, Marshall has only allowed 57 yards per game on the ground. That is a problem for us. So that's 2 problems for the Cajuns. You also have, and UL secondary will be tested because you got a quarterback now who is throwing for an average of 300 yards per game. Almost 300 yards per game. The secondary will be tested. You do not have Maureen Elliam, who was a starter and a really good defender for you. And the Cajuns struggled against Noah Kim. So that's that on this game. Other than that, everything else is very bleak. You know, coming into this game, Marshall is very confident in this game, and the only reason why is because UL obviously sucks right now, and they're not in a good condition. Obviously, you're getting injured as we progress through the season. Your injury list keeps getting bigger, and you said that we're slowly getting better, and yes, we're slowly getting better on offense. On defense, we're kind of taking a step back. Because we were talking about this against Rice, you only allowed 14 points. Against McNeese, you only allowed 10 points. Those were 24 points that we allowed on defense in the first 2 weeks of the season. And we were one of the best defenses in the country statistically. And then, of course, you play Missouri, which this is the game you want to forget. And then you play Eastern Michigan, an 0-3 team, and you let them run and throw all over you. That is an issue. And I will say this, Marshall is a better team than Eastern Michigan is. Despite all those players they lost, they are a better team right now than Eastern Michigan is. So that's that. Yesterday, like I said, Marshall was 1.5 point underdogs. They are now 1.5 point favorites. Predictions for this game. And okay, so what we are looking for before we go to predictions, what we are looking for in this game, we just need to see this Cajuns offense improve, continue to improve. It has slightly improved against Eastern Michigan. It needs to improve even more. Okay. You are at the point in this season. You are at the point in this season right now. What the hell is going on?
The 911 phone line is out.
That is a first.
Never seen that before.
I've never seen that. What was I just saying? I forgot.
Like improving.
Preview, yes. What we need to see is this offense improve. We've seen it slightly improve. It just needs to improve even more. Okay. Second of all, we need to make sure that this running attack, and this is going to be a good matchup to watch. This Marshall rushing defense versus this Cajuns rushing defense. It's going to be a really good matchup to see. We need to be able to run the ball well if we want to have any chance at winning this game. Because if we don't run this ball well, God knows what's going to happen. This could end up being a blowout for the Cajuns or for Marshall. And then defensively, the Cajuns are just going to have to really stick to their ground in the secondary. My prediction for this game, and on Tuesday, I said this, and I don't think I'm going to change it. I have Marshall winning this game 31-27 or 31-24. I just don't know if this Cajuns offense right now is capable of being able to, one, run the ball against this Marshall defensive front, and two, you're losing your 2 best receivers. I don't know if the passing game is really going to be any better than it was at Eastern Michigan. 31-24 is going to be my prediction. Marshall will win this game. What you got, Banyan?
Yeah, I think Marshall will win this game too, but I will talk about UL. The way that we will win is if we control the clock and control the game on offense and win the turnover battle. We've only won the time of possession once, and that was against McNeese, and there was only 7-minute difference. Everything else we've lost. Or I think East Michigan, it was within a minute. So we got to control the line of scrimmage on offense. We got to run the ball, chew clock, play good on defense, and win the turnover battle. If that happens, then UL will come out victorious. But until I see that, Marshall will win, and I have 34-24 Marshall.
So we're pretty much somewhat on the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
But to wrap things up, I mean,
just gotta see it first. If we go in and beat Marshall today, we'll be having way different discussions the rest of the season.
It will be. And if you lose to Marshall, the discussions that we are having right now about the future of this team is going to pretty much be the same, and if not worse. There's not much optimism on this, for support on this team right now. Honestly, I'll be honest. There might not be a lot of fans at this game, which is sad to hear, but it is what it is. The game will be on ESPN Plus at 7 p.m. So that's that. That's all we have on this Cajuns Insider episode. We'll be back next week on Thursday, 1 o'clock, not 1:30. I got a dentist appointment at 2, so got to jet out of here right after this next week. So we're going to be here at 1 o'clock on Be In The Know, all of their social media platforms. This is where Cajuns Insider goes live. We'd like to thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see how this game goes. I hope it goes well. Part of me says I want it to go well. Part of me doesn't. If we can get a bowl game this season, it'd be a miracle, and it would be a win for us, I guess, given the situation. So that's that. I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in to Cajuns Insider. We'll see you next week here on Thursday at 1 p.m. Till then, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day, your weekend. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Enjoy any other games you might be watching as well. Don't forget to tune in to Louisiana Game Day, Saturday at 9:30 a.m. right here on Be In The Know. Have a great day, and so long.